Alright, welcome everyone. This is a video I'm going to do on the Roro spool. This is the Thicken brake model. This is for the Alphas SV. It's a reel that I've had sitting around for a while. I haven't really used it in a couple years, and I thought that I could kind of give it a refresh by putting a BFS spool in there. So this spool, I think it was like $70. It's well worth it. I've used it a little bit. It was super windy. Audio was terrible, so I couldn't really use it, but it performed well. I'm mainly using it for your traditional bass applications. That's what I found it to be best at. It was a little bit too braked for me for your ultralight trout lures and like panfish lures, but for bass lures it's great. It's a lot of control and you still get distance. Lure I'm using here, this is I just tied this on. It's a 16th ounce crappie jig head with the Z-Man the TRD. So it's a fairly light. This is like a light bass application. You wouldn't really use this for like stream trout or anything, but I feel that the Roro spool, like the Thicken brake models, I like them for the bass presentation. So that's what I'm going to be testing it out at. I know a lot of my BFS footage is trout based, but I know that there's a big need for it for bass fishing too, and that's where it kind of started too. So that's what I'm going to be going into. All right, so here's first cast. I should mention I do have my brakes on. I don't. It's close to halfway. I didn't rig this bait up that well, so I think it's gonna have some line twist eventually. Let me see. Oh, not so bad. I should mention it's been pretty cold and it's snowy, and then it got warm enough to melt the snow. So this water's really close to freezing. I should probably turn my brakes down a little bit. But as you can see on the camera, it does cast pretty flat, just like how in my first review video I did with the Alphas Air TW. I'm just gonna reel this back. The Alphas Air TW, that's one thing I did notice, it casts really flat. And that's what I'm seeing here too, even with like bass lures like this. Brakes are about, that's where the brake knob is. I don't know if you can see. So it's about, I don't know, 40% brakes. Let me do some pitching real quick. And that's where a lot of these BFS spools are going to shine, is that like they'll pitch great. So let's say right now, let's say if you're down in like Georgia or somewhere it's a little bit warmer, where your lakes don't freeze but the water gets really cold, and let's say it's a warm day and those bass are underneath the docks, like pitching small baits like this is going to be key. And with the spinning reel it's kind of hard because they could splash down because the line comes off really fast. But if you just put an aftermarket BFS spool in like this, I mean, I feel, I mean, I could get more distance out of that, but it's more than enough distance for me. And then if I want to turn and then cast it, I don't have to adjust my brakes at all. You will get a little bit more distance with a spinning reel, but I mean, if you prefer bait casting gear, there are advantages, disadvantages. I'll go over that in a different video. I use all bait casting gear, but that doesn't mean that spinning gear is wrong or anything. That's what I prefer. But for distance, you get enough distance with the NED rig on this setup. And this is a my guides are icing up a little bit. This is a 7-foot St. Croix Legend Elite. This is when St. Croix used to sell blanks. I got a blank built into a BFS rod. It's been pretty good. I use it mainly for bass. I don't really use it for panfish too much, or trout. It's pretty long for trout, unless you're doing it in lakes. I got a little bit of ice. So even with a little bit of ice in the guides, it still casts very well. Let me do something real quick. I want to see how it is for skipping. Yeah, I'm not skipping that great right now, and it's pretty good control. Like, I'm slapping the water pretty hard. Like that, it's pretty easy skip. And actually, to be honest, I haven't really skipped lures at all this year. I've been mainly fishing for panfish and trout for the most part. I haven't really been bass fishing at all. But the spool has a fixed inductor, and what that does, that means it's the constant braking force the whole time. It doesn't peak braking force like a movable inductor. It does reduce your overall distance a little bit, but it does help with control quite a bit. Yeah, that skip, there's no line fluffing up at all. Like this first hit right here is a little harder than it should be if you want like an ideal perfect skip, but the spool controls it very well. Yeah, that was a bad cast, and it's still no line fluffing up. And I have my brakes. I have my brakes at about 75% right now. Yeah, I have one itty bitty fluff right there. I don't know if you could see that on the camera, but and now it's out. So it's very good for skipping. So I haven't tried it with like, you know, bass size lures. I think it would be too much. Like the line capacity isn't enough for bigger lures, but for these smaller like NED rigs, skipping them out that way is very easy, especially with like my hands are really cold. Yeah, it's skipping no problem. I was pretty aggressive on there, and that's all I got right there. Oh, one more pull, and now it's out. And the line I'm using 4-pound. What am I using? I know I'm using 4-pound fluorocarbon. I think it's Seagar or Brazix that I'm using right now. So for the price, I definitely think these spools are worth it. I like, say I've used KTF spools, Avail spools, all that kind of stuff. And these spools are right up there with it. And I do like how the fixed inductor, it has a good balance of control and distance. With a moving inductor, like I said, you'd get a little bit more distance, but I think as an overall package, this spool actually performs very well. And I'm not usually a big fan of fixed inductor spools, mainly because like when you pitch, a lot of times that constant braking force can have too much brake for my liking, so the lure kind of hangs up in the air a little bit. But without messing with the brake dial, I can pitch, and it's a really low, consistent pitch, and then I can turn and cast right away and still get some distance too. So I really do like that about these spools. So like I said, the Thicken model, I'd suggest them for bass fishing, or if you're just gonna throw a little bit bigger lures for trout, like something like this. Or if you're in Europe, I know a lot of perch they eat baits about this size, so it's definitely worth it for that. And if you're gonna be throwing lighter lures than this, I'd suggest getting the standard brake model. It's for all players. It's a little bit thinner brake inductor, so that's going to have a little bit less braking. But overall, I think these spools are definitely worth it. So I'll keep posting my different results on Instagram and YouTube. So stay tuned for that. And also, like I said, ask any questions down below. I'm going to try to answer them the best as I can. Thanks.